I was sitting in the back of my ute at the beach, staring out at the water. It was a quiet day, no one around, except for this boat out on the distance. I laid back. I must have nodded off. I was woken by the sound of an outboard motor. That boat was up on the shore. There was this guy with thick blonde hair struggling to get on the sand. I grabbed a bottle of water, went down to help. He took the water and sculled it in seconds. At this point, we were face to face. He would have been in his mid-20s, pale blue eyes that were bloodshot. He looked really weathered by the elements. He grabbed this orange fluorescent bag out of the boat. I went to the ute and got a can of tuna, offered it to him. He devoured it like he hadn't eaten in 20 years. I said, "Are you lost?" And in a croaky, dry voice, he says, "I got to get to Wooded Bluff." I had a look on the maps. It was about an hour up the coast. He gets in the passenger side, still holding that bag he wouldn't let go, and we hit the road. He tells me his name's David. I said, "What's in Wooded Bluff?" He tells me that he'd been diving this shipwreck called the Emerald. He'd bought up a pretty sizable loot that was worth a lot of money, and he'd gone down again to get some more, and something had gone wrong with the tanks, or he'd run out of air. All he remembers is he came to drifting aimlessly on that boat. Now, he had to make sure that this bag got to his girlfriend, who was pregnant, Mary, and she lived in Wooded Bluff. He opens the bag and takes out this chain with a green stone the size of a large marble. He said it's an emerald, and he hangs it on the rear vision mirror. We get to Wooded Bluff, pull up to this run-down old weatherboard house. He says, "Can you take the bag in? I can't face her right now." So I knock on the door and this woman about my age answers. I said, "Is Mary there?" She said, "I'm Mary." Hold the bag out. She looks at it like she recognises it. She said, "Where'd you get that from?" I said, "Your boyfriend David wants you to have it." And she said, "David went diving 20 years ago and never came back." She takes the bag and invites me in. I step into the living room and there's this picture on the mantelpiece of a younger version of her with David from the boat. Just then a young girl walks in, early 20s. Thick blonde hair, pale blue eyes. And Mary says, "Emerald, this is a mate of your dad's." And I said, "Look, I don't really know him that well." I went out to the ute. David wasn't there. As I drive off, I look in the rear vision mirror and I see Emerald stepping out onto the porch. And hanging from that mirror is a stone of the same name, reflecting the setting sun.